What's happening, guys? Kenny here again, and today I've got another hype versus reality video for you guys. And the knife that I'm going to be talking about today is going to be this little guy. That's right. This is the Laconico Keen, which is a Massdrop collaboration with Ray Laconico. As you guys can see there's the Massdrop logo and S35 VN, and then you can see the Laconico laser etch right there, which is kind of his specialty. Always does it on the spine, and which I think is a really nice touch because it keeps the blade nice and clean. First off, guys, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Banter 24/7 for lending me this guy, and it's really nice of him to let me get a hold of this and also put it to use, guys. He let me use this thing like like I would normally, which is very kind because I do extensively use my knives, as you guys well know. And you guys can see this thing does have some scratches on the satin. I don't know if that's something I did or something he did, but I think that's just because you got a high polished satin and you're pushing it through a bunch of cardboard. There might be some other materials that might just touch the blade face. So yeah, but really nice knife, guys. And today, like I said, this is going to be a hype versus reality, which if you guys don't know, if you don't watch my videos, I'll explain really quick how I do this. I'm going to start with the specs and some size comparisons. Then I'll briefly go into the hype, talking about the hype that surrounds this knife, whether it be in the community or from the distributor or from personal, just people talking. And then I'll go into the reality, and when I get it out of box and use it, how it, does it live up to that hype that everyone created? For me, guys, because this is all, this is a subjective thing. This is obviously my perspective on it. And it's also the example that I'm holding. So you have to keep that in mind. But yeah, so we'll get right into it in saying that. And I'll go ahead and put the specs on the page right here, as I do. I don't want to waste your guys' time and spew off a bunch of specs, so just get that out of the way. And then we'll go right into some size comparisons. Alright. Let's go ahead and start off with another knife that I've had the pleasure of getting in hand because of Banter 24/7. And that is the ZT-0609. And that is and let me see, go ahead and bring in the Civivi Backlash. I did not mention that this Laconico Keen is manufactured by We. So yeah, this is also a We. It's just their budget line. But you guys can see it's a relatively similar size knife, a little bit shorter than the Civivi overall, but probably actually more cutting edge. Yeah, as you can see there, because of the finger choil. So I'm gonna apologize about the trash man in the back. If you guys hear that, it's gonna get kind of loud. Go ahead and bring in Benchmade 940. And let's see, I'll go ahead and bring in a ZT-0562. You guys can see the Keen's a much smaller knife. Very similar to the 940 there. Very similar size. And then go ahead and bring in some Spydercos. Go ahead and do the PM2, Blade HQ exclusive there. And then we'll go ahead and bring in the Pair 3. Give you guys a good, nice size comparison there. I know a lot of guys have one of those too. Okay, so then moving right along, we'll go ahead and, get into the hype and what's going around about this guy. So You guys, there is a lot of hype surrounding this knife right now, whether it be in the community or personally, you know, like as far as like just, I mean, I definitely built up a lot of hype, as well as Banter 24/7 absolutely loves this knife, and we hear a lot of hype just from him because of how much he loves the knife. Of course, that's a personal preference thing, guys. Subjectively, he absolutely is in love with this thing. So, of course, he's going to have his perspective surrounding that. It's just he loves this thing, and it made me really want to try one because I trust his judgment. I've obviously handled a lot of knives he has, and we usually have a very similar perspective. So I knew that, you know, if he loved it, I'd at least like it. So I really wanted to get it in hand. Also, just everyone in the community, I don't think I've heard very many bad things about this knife. I haven't heard a lot of negative content from anybody on this knife in general. So I really wanted to get one in hand for that. I did like the shape. I like the overall look of it. Subjectively, I did like the way it looks. Even though it's very subtle and simple, I did like the way it looked. Oh, and guys, I didn't really talk about the pricing in the intro there. So these are $150 is the starting price on Massdrop. And then when you add this groove, you add $10. And then they have one with portals as well with holes. And that one's going to be $20 more. The color doesn't affect the pricing. So yeah, at that price, guys, at $150, there was a lot of guys talking about how just the build quality and everything put together. I mean, for $150, you're getting titanium scales, frame lock with a over travel stop and an lock interface, and then also you're getting S35, nice thick stock. So yeah, it's a good price for what you're getting. The size is a good EDC size. You're looking at about a 3.5-inch blade. I forget what the overall length is. I did put that in the specs. So yeah, you guys get a good, I mean, it's just a great size. It's about an 8-inch overall length on the knife. And it's just a nice size for EDC. And it just, as far as the shape and aesthetics go, it's just a nice, subtle knife that won't like really, you're not going to have anyone freaking out when you pull this thing out of your pocket. And it just has a nice subtlety to it, kind of like a nice gentleman's carry. Also the action, you heard a lot about the action from the community and from reviews in general. Also you hear a lot about the sliciness. Yeah, and just a lot of hype surrounding this knife, guys. The fit and finish, also the way it carries. Supposedly it carries very nicely, so a lot of hype surrounding it. And the reality, guys, when I got this thing out of box, when Banter 24/7 sent this to me, it did come in the box with this guy, so I did have kind of two knives where I was unboxing two at the same time, two knives that I really wanted to handle. So in saying that, I did get this guy out and I was like, oh yeah. Right off the bat, it's just a good looking knife, guys. I did like the shape of it. It does have that kind of traditional look to it, like Banter 24/7 talks about. It does have that traditional type of look, and you can grab the blade like that, like a traditional. All it would need was like a nail nick, and it would really have that traditional look. The fit and finish. As far as the finish goes, guys, the bead blast on the handle scales is really nice, and the cutout is really smooth looking, and everything looks really nice, and it's chamfered really well, so it's not gonna cut into your skin at all. And as far as this chamfering all around, guys, as with the finish, it's very nicely contoured and chamfered everywhere. You can see the back. This is all chamfered nicely on the inside. The edges are all chamfered nicely inside here. Like you guys can see, the contour on the handles is very nice. Even on the spine, You can see there's chamfered edge on the spine. The blade finish is nice. You know, it's a nice satin finish. But as you can see, and as Banter 24/7 talks about, you see the smudges. That's just from I did just wipe this down with some Benchmade cleaner, and it leaves a little bit of an oil residue. And you can see just from my fingers touching it, that residue smudging. So that's the one downside to that satin finish on the blade. Also the scratches that it shows, as I was telling you there. Yeah, it shows some scratches because it's such a fine polish. So that's one downside to that. And then also, you know, it just shows fingerprints. So yeah, the finish is nice overall. You guys can see some snail trailing happening there on that bead blast on the handle scales, which is nice. It just shows a little bit of wear, and I really doesn't bother me. Those snail trails and stuff just gives it a nice worn look. As far as the fit, guys, the fit was really good. And there's nothing I really noticed that where it bugs me. You can kind of feel the transition right here, just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit low on the backspacer right at the end here, but otherwise it's really flush everywhere else. They do a little bit of a chamfer on the inside of both sides, so you see the line, obviously. But that does make it easier to have a nice finished look. If they don't do that chamfer and it's going like corner to corner, any little bit of slight variation is gonna show the edge. So doing that little chamfer on the backspacer and handle scale really is a nice touch, because it allows them to not be absolutely perfect, but really close, and it lines up good. You guys can see there, it's a little bit low on the scale side right there. I can feel it slightly, ever so slightly. Oh, there you go. You can see it a little bit there. But really nice. I mean, really, you can't really say it's bad. Let me take a drink of coffee. And then also, excuse me. Then also, like I said, the fit as far as the way that the blade sits in the scales and everything, it's nice. Very tight tolerances there. It seems like he definitely recessed the bearings into the scale a little bit. And you guys can see there, this is the stop pin actually is pressed in the blade, and then rolls inside that groove inside the handle scales. So yeah, it's a kind of a nice touch. Definitely, it's going to be a very strong laterally. I'm sorry, it's very strong laterally, and it's also going to be just nice wearing, because you have a stop pin going up against a circular cutout too. So the surfaces are all being touched at the same time. There's not like there's not going to be one point that's getting stressed more than another. So that's a really nice touch as well. The centering is just slightly to the left there. It's not perfect, but I'm sure if I messed with this, I could probably get it centered again. I think when I got it, it was perfectly centered. And then over time, just from flipping it, I don't know if he like took the knife apart and put it back together right before I got it. But one thing I noticed is it is a little tight on the pivot, which I think, you know, he likes that as well. He doesn't really like drop free. But I did notice the blade start to walk a little bit towards the the scale, the show side, and I tightened the pivot just a little bit, and it came back over. But yeah, really nice, guys. Really nice fit and finish. And then, especially for $150, the fit and finish, guys, is excellent. Really nicely done. Can't complain about anything there. And then, guys, when I went ahead and fired it, you guys have seen me playing with it already, but excellent action as far as deployment. In the light switch, you guys can see the flipper tab is lower than the pivot, so your fulcrum is going to be a little higher. So the 12 o'clock push button does work really well if you just push straight down, especially if you just set your finger on the flipper tab. It flips very well. Or if you'd like to do a push button and push at a 45-degree angle right here, just load up on it, and it does deploy very well. The more you load up, obviously, the faster it'll deploy. But yes, it does push button and light switch very well. One thing I did notice is the detent is a little soft for, what I would prefer. I can easily fail it. That could be a negative, or, some guys probably wouldn't mind that too much. It's not that bad where I can shake it out. I mean, I probably could. It's really, actually, I can't really shake it out. Yeah, even off camera, I'm having a hard time shaking it out. So it's not necessarily like that the detent ball is not falling all the way in or anything, but it just does have a kind of soft detent when it comes to deployment. Might be more the flipper tab than the actual, the detent. But usually I can make it work with my thumb, but I have to think about it. So that's usually how I can tell how strong a detent is, when I use my thumb. Like if you look at this guy, like I don't even have to think about it, and every time it'll deploy with my thumb. So yeah, that's kind of the detent there. Little soft, guys. Little bit soft, but not horrible. And then as far as the falling action, the closing action, it's one of those things where it'll stay in place, but if you want to swing it shut, it'll swing shut. I did notice that there is a spot where it wants to sit right here. Kind of bugs me a little bit. Like when I'm closing it, it wants to stick right there, just about every time. Unless I shake it down hard, swing it all the way in. Like I have to make sure that I swing it hard, and it'll close. Once I handle it for a little while, it does swing in nicely. The other thing that to note is that where the detent goes on top of the tang is pretty much like right away, guys. Like right here, it's disengaged. Now the detent ball is on the tang right there. So there's not a lot of space, and then you can, it's free. So that's a really nice touch there. The disengagement and where the detent ball gets on top of the tang. It's really nice. That one little thing about the closing action is the only thing that really bugs me. And I'm sure if I took this thing apart and, reassembled it in my way and maybe put my oils and stuff on it, I think he runs most of his knives dry. So maybe if I did it my way, it would close a little better for my preference. But yeah, that's just me, guys. It doesn't bother me that much. In use, it's actually really not a big deal at all. So yeah, that's the fit and finish and the action, guys. I know I talked about that for a while, but yeah, moving along, I want to talk about the ergonomics and the blade. And as far as I'll kind of talk about the ergonomics when I get into the video, but as far as the blade shape is going, as that goes, it's really nice, guys. It's just a kind of like a spear point blade there. Really nice utilitarian shape. You got some belly. You do have some flat right here, and a nice sharp point for some stabbing, any stabbing tasks you have to do. So it's really nice blade shape. And grind, guys, is where this guy really shines. No pun intended. But yeah, this primary grind is a nice aggressive primary grind coming from a 1.6 inch stock, which a 0.16 inch stock, which is 4 millimeters, and that's a nice thick generous stock. But with how aggressive the primary, for one, how broad the blade is, you guys can see it's about an inch broad, and it comes down to a very, very keen behind the edge thickness, guys. I'll go ahead and bring out the calipers. This thing has been sharpened by Banter 24/7, and then by me. I put it at 17 degrees. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, no, I take that back. I was putting it at 17 because I thought that's what he wanted. And when I checked it, it's actually at 15 degrees was what he did, because he uses the, what is that? I'm sorry, not the Apex. Yeah, the Apex Pro. When you set that down, if you're at 17, because of this aggressive primary, he actually goes even at a more aggressive angle, which was 15 degrees, is what I found when I put it on the KME. And put my angle finder on it. So behind the edge thickness, yeah. Wow, guys. Woo, it came off. You'll get about 10 thousandths, which is actually what they call for. On Massdrop's site, they call for 10 thousandths behind the edge. And wow, did they nail it here. And that's at 15 degrees, guys. It's definitely going to broaden by the tip. Still, 14, guys. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 17, right at the tip. I mean, you can see by the secondary grind here, by my edge, that's pretty thin for a 15 degree per side edge. That's a nice thin bevel. So, yeah, really, really beautiful grind on this thing, guys. And that's really where it starts to shine, is that grind. That blade grind is just done excellently, guys. Really well done. And then the ergonomics, the way the handle shape is, it's like they say, it's super simple. It's like, it's like grabbing a stick, guys. It's really just a subtle curve to it. There's no finger grooves. There's nothing that's gonna affect like a certain person's hand or anything. It's very simple, so it's really just very nice. And then as far as handle size goes, how it's gonna fit your hand, I do have medium to large size hands. Large as far as the width of my hands, it's about 3 3/4 across in broadness, and then you're looking at about 4 inches here. But that's where I'm kind of more medium. And then length from this point to this point is about 6 1/4 to 6.5 inches. So you know how this thing's gonna fit in your hand if you have hands bigger or the same size or smaller than mine. And then the contoured handle fits very good in hand, and it's very hand filling. I did not notice any hot spots, guys. I used it extensively. I did a lot of cutting with it. I did not notice anything objectionable. And the clip really just kind of disappears in your hand and falls right into the fold. Going in and out of the pocket, was excellent, guys. The ramp going in and then the steeper ramp coming out. It's great for retention, yet it goes in and out super easily. The way they brought it down a little further so it doesn't bind up on the lock bar cutout. Everything about it is just very well done. Yeah, there was one more thing. I did want to go ahead and bring in weight on this guy, which is really nice. Yeah, 4.26, which is really nice for the 3.5 inch blade length here. That's a really nice weight. You can't really complain about 4.26 there. Carries really well, and the way that it curves off in the pocket, it really does carry well. It kind of curves back, and there's really no jimping here. That is one more gripe I would have, is the jimping on that. Sometimes I do find myself slipping off, but nothing objectable here. And it really just, it's a very, very seldom thing where I would slip off the flipper tab. But just one more thing to note. And then again, going back into the blade, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some cutting footage here. And I'll talk about, for one, the blade grind, guys. As I said, it's just so well done. Behind the edge thickness is excellent, and it just slices through cardboard like a laser beam, guys. Everything I did with this knife, whether it be slicing cardboard, cutting zip ties, cutting bags open, cutting letters open, whatever it may have been. I didn't do a lot of cutting of wood with this knife. Well, since I've had it, I didn't want to go too crazy with hard use on it necessarily, although I did go through really thick, going like 6 cardboard thick and stuff, and it sliced right through very well. The S35 on this guy seems to be done very well. I've been impressed. It's not, it's not amazing in the sense of like my Inkosi, like a CRK S35. It's not to that level, I feel like, with the heat treat. If you guys don't know a lot about S35 is a very, very good all-around steel, especially depending on the heat treat done. But when done properly, S35 has all the good aspects of like an S30, and obviously with the PM steel. So it's done with the powdered metallurgy process, and it gets even distribution of all the carbides. And it performs very well when heat treated properly. You're looking at a very well-rounded steel that's tough. Well, tough, guys. Also has very good edge stability. It has good wear resistance and abrasion resistance, which pretty much correlates straight to your edge retention. It also has good rust resistance. Although depending on the way that they heat treat it, of course you're going to get different aspects of the steel being utilized. So it all depends on their heat treat. And from what I've heard, does an excellent heat treat on their S35 where they really focus on performance over like corrosion resistance, from what I hear. Although it does seem to be very, very well done as far as corrosion resistance as well. I didn't notice any spotting or anything. Although it's not my knife, so I did take really good care of it with putting EDCI or some type of corrosion-resistant oil on it, keeping the blade nice and taken care of. But yeah, as far as the cutting goes, guys, as you can see here, I mean, it just sliced like a demon. I mean, I really put this thing to work. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see all the piles of cardboard I made with this thing. It really was a joy to use, and the ergonomics just shined really, really well in use. So I was not only pleasantly surprised by the ergonomics, but also the blade, which is pretty much in line with what you hear about this knife. And it's just, as a working knife, as a working man's knife, it performs, guys. I mean, that's just the basic facts of what it is. Objectively, I use a lot of different knives, and I found that this knife sliced cardboard or anything like that just as well as any knife, if not better than any knife I've used. And obviously, if you're cutting into an apple or something like that, you might have more of an issue with the stock thickness. But as far as your everyday tasks, even cutting an apple, you're going to have a fine time. It might split at the very end, but it slices very well, and it's very keen behind the edge. Of course, with the name, it makes a lot of sense that it would be. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys back from that and go ahead and really just give you a conclusion on the knife all around. Guys, it's pretty awesome. I'm going to say that, honestly, when I got this thing, within 3 days of having it, I ordered one. So you guys know, it's not the first time someone's lent me a knife that I turned around and purchased it. So this is one of them. I absolutely loved it when I got it. Just the way it felt in hand, the fit and finish, the way it's made was done really well. But honestly, guys, it was the way it performed. Obviously, as you guys can see, they did a very nice functional sharpening choil there, getting you pretty far away from the plunge grind. So a lot of life there as far as sharpening capabilities. As you guys can see, if you were going to be using this as a hard use knife, it does keep a pretty thick tip. there's not a whole lot of distal tapering here. It does keep a lot of the thickness all the way out to here where it finally starts to break. But in saying that, with staying very slicey, you keep a lot of blade stock, which is very nice. If you did have to pry with this thing, it's very capable. And as a workman's knife, this would be excellent, guys. Or as a gentleman's knife. We were having a conversation about this today in the chat channel. It's like, as far as like something like this, where it kind of checks all the boxes, you know, you got your gentleman's carry, your work knife, your you're not necessarily a fidget toy with these, but I do actually fidget with this a lot. So yeah, just it kind of checks all the boxes, you know. This guy does too. I really do feel like this guy checks all the boxes. He's, you know, it's a gentleman's carry. You can always pinch it and roll it out if you're around people, which is nice. You know, it keeps the blade pretty far out there, so you can either do two-hand opening, or you can just pinch it with one hand. And because of that, that aggressive primary grind, then you can just roll it out with your thumb. So that's really nice. I do have oil on here, so it's a little slippery. That's why I'm slipping. But really easy to pinch and roll out. So that was nice as well. So gentleman's carry, work knife, fidget factor on this guy, really nice. The one knock I will have is that action kind of bugs me a little bit. But in saying that, I didn't take this apart because it's not my knife. I think Banter 24/7 gave me the go-ahead, but you know, I'm not really too keen. No pun intended. I'm not really too keen on opening up someone else's knife unless I'm about to do a mod on it, like I did with Steve and Elliot from Sharp Thinkings. So yeah, I'm not too keen on opening up someone's knife if I don't have to. So I really didn't go into it, even though I did want to take this apart for the review. I got one coming, guys. It'll actually be here this week, either tomorrow or the next day. So really looking forward to that. I did get the portal. I did get the portal one. So I'm going to have, it has like 5 holes here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be modding it. I'm going to be using my new, I did get a new power supply that goes up to 120 volts. So I got actually one that's going to work for me and doing all the colors. But I'm going to do some cool stuff on that, on mine. So yeah, you guys will get to see that. You will see a lot more of the Keen in the future. But I did want to go ahead and do a hype versus reality before I get mine. And then this guy is going to be going to Kurt to get the HRC testing done. And also this guy. So these two are going to be going out to get the HRC testing. And I'll be getting mine, and that'll probably get HRC tested as well. So we'll see how Wee's doing on this S35. But as far as the knife goes overall, guys, I was super impressed. Impressed enough to go ahead and get one. And I really just love the ergonomics, guys. I really didn't find any hot spots, no matter how hard the knife twisted in my hand. In every grip, you know, whether it be the pinch grip or saber or hammer grip or whatever reverse, which I never use unless I'm stabbing into something. So yeah, really nice, guys. Just excellent all-around knife. And the only real knock I might have on it was the little bit of the closing action, but honestly, that's such a subtle thing, and you get used to it. But when I was comparing it to this guy, you know, this guy just has a better closing action, and a little bit better as far as detent goes for me on deployment. But you know, real subtle things, and actually, I really did just love it. Absolutely. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I'm kind of adding a little bit more to the hype on this knife out there, although I did add some of my own personal gripes about the knife. Really small things, guys, and honestly, I would suggest this to anybody. I really would. I think it's a great all-around knife. Not everybody, you know. If you're not a flipper guy, not a knife for you guys. I would much more suggest something like this if you don't like flippers. Great all-around knife as well, but you know, if you don't like flippers, go for something like this. But other than that, you know, there's not a lot I'd say that it's not a good reason to go grab one of these. So really well done by Ray Laconico here. Well executed by Massdrop, or actually I should say by We. Well executed by We, and good job, Massdrop. You're really bringing some awesome designs to the table, and they're really showing themselves as a solid competitor in knife design right now. Even though they're not designing knives, they're starting a lot of really great collaborations that are turning into excellent knives. So appreciate that from Massdrop, and also, We for the manufacturing, and Ray for another amazing design. You know, I do love his Gemini, so I actually prefer this much more over the Gemini. So anyways, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Thanks for all your thumbs up, your likes, and everything. Appreciate it all. Have a great day.